See here, let's have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Arata?
Present.
Commissioner Bajaj?
Present.
Commissioner Funabashi?
Present.
Commissioner Nafisi? Absent. Commissioner Beely?
Present.
Commissioner Sao?
Present.
Chair Simpson?
I am here. Let's have a salute to the flag. Commissioner Bajaj, can you lead us, please?
All right, ready? Begin. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, can we get a motion to approve the order of the agenda? Anybody see any problems with the agenda?
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Looks like it passes. Do we have any blue folder items?
There are no blue folder items tonight.
Okay. Now it's time to go to the consent calendar. Is there anything there that someone might like to pull out and consider separately, or can we just get a motion to pass the consent calendar as presented?
I'll make a motion to pass the consent calendar.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
See, do I need to ask for public comment on that? I guess I should. Any public comment on the consent calendar? Seeing none.
The only thing, if I might add, is where I might approve 3 of the 4 points, I was absent at the January meeting, so would abstain from approval of the minutes from that meeting.
Okay. So can we get a voice vote, I guess, to,
Sure, and just for the record, we do not have any e-comments, and no one on Zoom has raised their hand for these items.
okay.
So you can do a voice vote for the consent calendar?
Yeah, do we need a,
wanna do-
can we do a
okay.
voice vote on that?
Sure. Commissioner Arata?
Aye.
Commissioner Bajaj?
Yes.
Commissioner Funabashi?
Aye with exception.
Commissioner Beely?
Aye.
Commissioner Sao?
Aye.
Chair Simpson?
Aye. Okay, we're now down to the point on the agenda where the public can address us about anything they want that's not mentioned on the agenda. If it's on the agenda, we'll ask for public comment at that time. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to address the commission about? It's not on the agenda. Don't see any here. Is there any e-comment or Zoom comments or anything on public?
There are no Zoom participants with their hand raised, and there's no e-comments.
Okay. So I guess we now go to items for discussion prior to action, and I gather it would be item J1, discussion regarding the proposed 2024-25 fiscal year funding for capital improvement projects, CIP.
Good evening, Commissioners. Tonight we have a special treat. City Manager Mike Wodzinski is here to present his thoughts on the upcoming budget cycle and especially the CIP program. And following that, Jesse will go through some additional slides, but we want to give Mike a chance to speak to you first. So, Mike Wodzinski.
Good evening.
Good to see you.
Yeah, it was really long, now that I see it.
Always a pleasure to be here. This is the time of year where I go out on the road and really listen to the commissioners, get a chance to talk to you all before we prepare the formal budget that we're going to present in the middle of May to the City Council for the fiscal year 24-25 period. Really just hear from you, ideas you have, projects, concepts, services you'd like to see us modify, enhance, change, any questions you might have about the budget. This, as I said, is just really me here to take feedback from you, gather input as we begin to deliberate. The charter requires that I propose the budget each year to the City Council by, I want to say, May 16th of the year. That date will ebb and flow a little bit based on the agenda timing and when ultimately we get the deliverable out. The mayor and council will receive and file the budget formally and receive their first presentation from me on it at the May 21st City Council meeting. We'll get it out to them the prior week as part of our packet. But the formal budget hearings will begin in June. We'll have 3 of them. The first Tuesday of June will be a formal substantive discussion on the operating components of the budget. The second Tuesday will be focused on the capital projects that we've proposed in the plan. And then the third Tuesday, the council will deliberate, ask final questions, and then hopefully adopt the budget and set us forward for the fiscal year, which will begin in July. There is the possibility in years past where sometimes the council has scheduled a 4th hearing to finalize the process, but our hope is that we'll have it done in the third Tuesday in June. Like I said, we're beginning to prepare the document, kind of gather information, understand the different budget pressures that we have going into the fiscal year. What are our revenue forecasts looking like? Are they improving year over year? Are they flat? And then what are some of those, as I said, expenditure pressures, right? Utility costs growing and going up in different areas of building occupancy. Are our routine repair and maintenance items out in our public right-of-ways growing? Do we need to make adjustments there? Are we properly staffed? You know, typically in a growing cycle, we'll add positions to the budget. I don't anticipate doing that this year. I think this year is going to be a bit of a retrenchment, a kind of a calibration of our resources. We've recently concluded fairly significant labor contract agreements, multi-year agreements, where we're adding new cost of living adjustments for most of our classifications. So we're going to need to absorb those expenditure pressures into the budget going forward. So that will take away some of our discretionary ability to spend. So we're calibrating all of that. We'll present the budget. And then at that point, the documents, the city councils, and then they'll tell us, hey, here's what we'd like to see you change. Here's what we'd like to see you add. Here's what we'd like to see you subtract. And then they'll ultimately adopt the budget from there. So tonight is kind of that preliminary feedback from you all. You'll have another bite at the apple, just to make clear, when we propose the budget in May, there'll be a follow-up meeting. I think you're trying to schedule that meeting still, where you'll get a chance to weigh in on the specifics of the budget and the projects that we've actually recommended the council consider for approval. So you'll get a second review of this with the formal document in front of you where you can say, hey, Mike, Andy, Jesse, you guys were nuts. What are you doing with $500,000 for this project? Or, boy, I think we need $500,000 plus another $500,000, whatever it might be. So you'll get a chance to have formal review of the proposed budget next month. But tonight is, give me your best ideas, things we should be considering and thinking through. I think Jesse's got a presentation here after my discussion with you all where he'll give you a primer, kind of getting you thinking about the capital project list that we have currently, what's been accomplished, what's sort of ongoing, and then kind of getting you thinking about where we're heading come May and what you might want to suggest in that regard. So I'll be here for the first component, and then Jesse and Andy will kind of take it from there. So with that, I'll turn it over to you all. Any questions you might have, love to answer them. And any thoughts, I've got my pad and we're ready to roll. So thank you. And again, before you start, thank you for your service. Appreciate your commitment to doing this. Know it takes out of your family and personal time. And it's great to have you here. We've got great committed commissioners in our city, and it makes a big difference on helping us shape how we deliver services. So thank you. I'll turn it over to you.
Any comments or
Questions,
questions?
Thank you.
Thoughts? Anything you'd like to see added, subtracted? Things that are going well, whatever you like.
If I may, I'm appreciative that we get that real bite at the apple when you present that, but
Yeah.
just because we're kind of breaking things open tonight and kind of kicking things off, there's been a bit of conversation amongst the community, amongst some of our leaders as of late about the necessity to perhaps do voted indebtedness at some point versus actual CIP projects that can be accomplished through our regular budget. So I would love to have you just share a few things on that thought, and also maybe explaining where the bulk of our money from this, I mean, we were talking the other day about sales tax and utility taxes and property taxes that go up and then go over and then come back to us. If you could,
Sure.
just take a moment to elaborate on those.
Yeah, happy to. Great. Maybe I'll take them in reverse order. Start with revenue, because that's really where our budget begins. Starts with revenue. We can't deliver service without revenue. Our largest source of revenue in the city, probably not a surprise to you all, property tax. And it's been a real bright spot for us over the last decade. Steady increase year over year over year. And we should see another sizable gain year over year going into 24, 25. Typically, with property tax, both good and bad, there's a lag on what's happening in the market and then what we're accruing in actual property tax generation, right? So whenever an old property sells, it's shedding typically a artificially suppressed through Prop 13, a lower tax rate, and then transferring it now to a much higher tax rate per the new buyer. So even if home values may ebb and flow a little bit year over year, odds are that home that's being sold is being sold at a rate that's lower than what it's being paid for currently. So we usually see tax increment with transactions. Occasionally, like at times during the Great Recession, where you had people that had bought high and just were forced to sell lower than they paid, then you might see the reverse, the kind of the tail on that. And then, so declines in the market usually happen after a steady decline in home values and after a period of time. So right now, we're still generally year over year seeing sustained increase in property valuations through transaction. And looking forward to seeing more of that revenue next year. Current projections are suggesting that we'll see an increase of anywhere from 3 to 5% next fiscal year over what is already a $30+ million property tax value in our community from a generation standpoint. Property tax, I think in total, if you bring in the in lieu vehicle fee, the triple flip that the state did, and some of the other kind of associated property tax revenues, I want to say in a $34, $35 million range. If you compare that to the next highest source, which is our sales tax, that's at a little over $10 million. So major difference from property tax to, number 2 on the list in sales. Sales is probably our most disappointing tax revenue source. The reason for that is we don't have a lot of high-performing brick and mortar retail stores in our community. Our biggest sales tax generators are our restaurants on the whole. Now, not any one individual restaurant, but on the aggregate, it's a big contributor to sales tax in our community. That's probably the brightest spot in the sales tax category altogether. But if you look at how we perform compared to our peers, the Torrances or the El Segundos, we just don't have much in the way of big box retail, right? Our higher performers are Del Amo Motorsports, Ferguson's, Total Wine. I mean, those types of things. That's not the Costco's and the Home Depots and the Apple stores and some of the really big generators. And why that's a little concerning for us is that one of the largest growing components of sales tax is what they call the county pool, the sales tax pool, which is an aggregation of all of the regions, the county regions, online sales. So when you all buy goods here in Redondo, we don't get your sales tax from that transaction. That sales tax flows to the county pool and then is distributed to cities, not based on where those clicks were. And we all know Redondo Beach with 70,000 residents, city our size, we're doing a lot of online shopping around here, right? Yeah. We don't receive that revenue based on the actual online receipts. We receive it based on our community's brick and mortar retail, on the ground retail performance versus all of the other LA County cities. So when our brick and mortar performance declines and say Torrance or El Segundo goes up, we get a disproportionate negative share of the online sales tax pool. And you can imagine, what's the largest growing component of the region sales tax? It's all the sales through Amazon and all of the other online providers. So that's this, when we look at our sales tax numbers, it's sort of two things that I trouble me is when we're flat, that means we might be flat in what we're accruing, but we're slowly losing market share in what is otherwise a growing county pool. So really the reason that's important is when you think about areas where we can see sales tax growth, the revitalization or renovation of the South Bay Social District, formerly the Galleria, that has big upside to us, right? Because if they start performing at a higher level, not only do we see that new tax increment, but we see that tax increment now adjusted formulaically for our distribution out of the sales tax pool. So super big, it's a big hit for us, both good and bad, depending on how successful they are. And if you go back in time, we benefited from that formula historically because we outkicked our coverage, for lack of a better analogy, compared to our peers, because our brick and mortar outperformed our neighbors when the Galleria was humming, when it was at its peak. But since its decline, the loss of Nordstrom's and the sort of ensuing decline, we actually underperform versus our neighbors, and that's a real challenge. So that's the second largest source of revenue for us, but it's not a real bright spot. It's a flat to declining source. The one that's right below it, and I would imagine will probably eclipse sales tax here fairly shortly, is our transient occupancy tax. That's the hotel bed tax when you stay in the community. You don't typically generate TOT in our own city because that's visitors coming into Redondo Beach. But when you come and visit Redondo Beach, part of your bill when you check out is a 12% TOT here that we assess locally. So that's been a big bright spot for us in the last few years. It's growing. It took a hit obviously during COVID, but it's on its way back. And once the Marine Avenue properties are humming, we'll be in good shape up there. And I suspect in a couple of years, it could easily be higher than sales tax generation for us. I hope I'm wrong, because if I'm wrong, it means the South Bay Social District's doing well, and we probably saw some growth there. And then that's followed by utility user tax. That's our fourth largest source. So those are our general taxes. I can't tell you there's a whole bunch of increment coming there. Property tax growth year over year is probably our brightest performer in terms of sort of positive increment. I do think TOT, we're going to see another $1.5 million, maybe $2 million next year over year, because the Marine Avenue properties are finally restructuralizing. Yes, sir. Did you have a question?
Yes. So with people coming in and staying within the city of Redondo Beach, is that mostly like Airbnb?
We don't, Airbnb technically is prohibited in Redondo Beach. I know some of it occurs, and we enforce that on sort of a complaint basis, but our transient occupancy tax is only collected on hotel stays. Bed tax, yeah. But that is, some communities who allow for short-term rentals, our code says you can't rent your home for less than 30 days. Some communities don't have that restriction. They allow you to do short-term rentals, and they actually assess transient occupancy tax on those stays and try to collect it. So Palm Springs is an example. I think a year or two ago, they generated almost $17 million of TOT through short-term rental vacations, which is kind of astounding considering that's more than what we accrue through our hotels currently by 60%. So it can be a big number depending on the location, but it can also come with headaches. We have a prohibition for a reason. Sometimes it can affect neighborhoods. So that's a balancing act that the council from a policy standpoint has had to contemplate in years past and maybe into the future. So those are our sources. I see them growing. I don't see overall aggregate revenue being less next year than it was this year. I see it going up. But I also see our expenditure line going up.
Inflation.
Due to inflation, yeah, it doesn't matter where you're at. Utility costs, labor costs, and we're really seeing inflation. And Jesse and Andy will tell you about this in the execution of our capital program. It used to be we could build a road, and now that same road segment might cost us 2.5 times what it did back in the day. So it really affects what we can deliver on a year-over-year basis. So that was the latter half of your question. The first half of the question was, remind me now.
The discussion of potential bonds.
Yes,
And
yes,
as
thank
a-
you.
as a revenue source for
I just want that word bond to be out there as often as it can be.
Yeah, or voted indebtedness as we.
Yeah, I like that phrasing too. No, appreciate the question. And yes, it's a concept we've kicked around over the years. The reality is our capital needs, and you all know this as well as anybody here, our capital needs far exceed our ability to pay, right? We don't have sufficient funding, particularly in the more general discretionary categories, right? General fund capital dollars that we can spend on anything. We don't have that much of that money to cover, what is 60, 70, 80-year-old key civic structures, right? This property was built in the 50s. Police station was built in the 50s. Our fire stations were built in the late 50s. We have literally hundreds of millions of dollars of infrastructure need, building infrastructure need. And, you are aware of this, we might have $1 million of general discretionary resources, maybe two in any given year available to spend. So what that forces us to do is renovate over time, right? But we can't do large scale renovations. We can only do small scale renovations. So we're office to office. We're break room to break room in the police station. We're report writing room to report writing room. We're window treatments at the fire stations or a roof. We aren't, hey, we're going to throw $10 million at this facility and we're going to do bathrooms and carpet and lobby and walls. And that's what we really need. And the way to do that practically is, and really the only way we can afford to do that is if we ultimately receive some assistance from our property owners. We can't generate that money through our general fund revenues. We can't set aside enough money to cover those costs. We have the ability to issue lease revenue bonds. We've done some of that to help us do things, but there's a limit to how much indebtedness we can take on in that regard, because every time we issue a lease revenue bond, we're effectively borrowing money and using general revenues to pay for it, right? That's kind of the flow through. And it's more complicated than that, but that's what it really means in the bottom line. But that takes away expenditure capacity for operations, right? Police services, fire services, public works, maintenance, all of that. So any dollar we sequester to pay in debt service is one less dollar we have to pay for labor costs or materials costs, et cetera. So the real way for us to advance, I think, capital restoration in our community really would be through the issuance of a general obligation bond. And so I think the time is appropriate for that consideration, and that is something that will be, I plan to present as an option to council through the budget process. So they're at least aware of the timeline and schedule of how it works. Andy and I and Jesse and our team are working on kind of a high-level needs analysis so we can start to at least put pen to paper on the order of magnitude of capital renovation that we would ultimately benefit from. And probably both, not just, not to come to the residents potentially and say, hey, we need brand new city hall, brand new police station, brand new library, brand new fire stations. No, we'll show what those costs conceivably could be, but we'll also show, hey, this is what we could do if we just had a couple $1 million to renovate the space, or, we're going to show a bit of a spread there so we can make an informed decision. And if there's an appetite for it, that would be fantastic. We certainly could use the support, but it's a community decision, right? Ultimately, it's going to have to go to the residents to decide, do we want to self-assess to see these improvements made in Redondo Beach? And but there's no denying that we've got decades-old facilities that need some help. That's just a fact. So hopefully that gives you a little context.
That answers it for me.
Yeah.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions, comments, thoughts?
Mike, I have a quick question. And just in looking at kind of the CIP projects and the proposal, this year, 2023 and 24, there was a sizable allocation for street improvements.
Yeah.
Like 13 million. It was like
Yeah.
abnormally larger, and especially larger than things moving forward projected. Were those funds and those projects adequately completed?
Yeah, well, they are, yes, for the most part. One of those, I believe, that constitutes that 13 million is just getting started. That's Manhattan Beach Boulevard. So we executed another sizable round of reconstruction efforts this capital year, as I recall. Torrance Boulevard, you probably saw we finally got paving down there. The next arterial is Manhattan Beach Boulevard. That's a $5 million project. But as I was saying earlier, that $5 million used to buy us 2 major arterial segments. Right now it's 1. So it's frustrating, right? We just had our pavement management study results, and our PCI is still really good in the region. I think we're at roughly 69 is the number. It's a factor out of 100. Anything over 70 is considered really good, really good. We're at 69. We're a little disappointed. We'd like to see that at 70, 71, 72. But when we started to look back at the last 2 years since we last did the study, you know, you've got all the rains that occurred over the last 2 years. You've got all the inflation that's occurred. It's just hard to keep up. So I think we did a pretty damn good job to be at 69, but it doesn't quite feel satisfying as much effort it was applied. And that's with millions and millions of dollars of spending. Our target when we first adopted the most recent pavement study was to spend, I think, just about $5 million a year. If we'd spent $5 million a year, we would be able to, or 6, we would be able to take our PCI rating from what was, I think, 70 at the time or 71 to 75 in like 10 years. We spent double that almost in the community on average, and we went down to 69. So it's crazy how so many, there's so many market factors that can affect the capital and construction market, and we're suffering through that right now. It's starting to stabilize a little bit. We finally got a good bid. We're replacing the pavers. I mean, it's kind of a silly example. We're replacing the paver stones down on International Boardwalk. I don't know if you'd ever go down to the waterfront where the skate park is now. And you've got this kind of ugly, lumpy asphalt that sort of goes around Basin 3 there where the boats are. Well, we're going to replace it with nice paver stones, kind of like what we did down in Riviera Village. Well, we estimated that was going to be a $1.2 million capital project. Well, when we first went out to bid, we got one bid, and it was $2.2 million. We said, oh my God, how we get, what's happening here, right? Rejected it, went out, extended our license, flexibility, and ultimately got a bid at about 1.2. It's on the agenda for tomorrow night's approval. We were thrilled. It's like, oh my God, thank goodness it was actually the estimate we had expected. But that kind of thing is happening in the public construction world right now. There's so much out there from a capital standpoint. It's highly competitive. The inflationary pressures that are there are challenging. So yeah, it's a tough time to be building right now.
Yeah.
It is.
Okay.
So
Thanks, Mike.
appreciate the question though.
Josh?
Yes, sir.
2 questions. First of all, thank you for all this information. It's very fascinating and educational for some of us who aren't as familiar with some of the logistics. 2 questions. One is like a large employer like Northrop Grumman that might have like 10,000 employees here in Redondo Beach. What is our financial benefit from them? Because I would imagine we're not generating any taxes from business they're doing if they're based out of, Reston, Virginia, or wherever they are. So how does that benefit us to have these very large scale employers here? That's my first question. I'll wait and then I'll ask my second one.
Yeah, that's a great question. There is a little bit, well, let me answer it holistically first. It's an indirect benefit, right? Having strong employers with high paying jobs in the region means there are a lot of people that are arguably living or at least on a daytime basis in the area spending money, right? So high paying jobs usually means that community is going to see at minimum higher daytime spending, and preferably if those people are also living in the community, it's giving them an ability to pay more for their homes, renovate, spend money basically, right? That's the real value of an organization, a company like Northrop being here, right? There is, on occasion, because of what they do and what they build, every now and again, it's sporadic and it's not a very dependable source, but every now and again, because of what they build, we don't always know what it is, but they occasionally have to code an actual point of sale here in Redondo Beach for a satellite or a rocket or whatever the hell they're building. We don't always know. But sometimes they have to code that and they have to record sales tax, and we do receive that actually as a locally generated and sold product. Like I said, it's sporadic. You can't count on it. So there is occasionally, I would say, a direct revenue benefit to them being here, but
don't
that's
you
really
also
not
get-
the primary value.
When you get property tax from the facilities, right? That's,
Well, it's funny. When you're a corporation the size and the sophistication of Northrop, you do a pretty darn good job finding a way to shield your property tax base. We get some. It's a big part of our assessed commercial valuation, no question. They do write a check for that. But let's just say it's probably not valued at what.
How many acres they got now?
That's, they are very, how should I say that politely? They're very skilled at using the perks of the tax code.
And then my second question was, and it might be a little premature because we haven't seen the presentation yet, but do we factor in, or how aggressive is the city with, trying to seek out grants and grant funding, or like, the
think
federal
great stuff.
infrastructure bill?
Fantastic. Our public works team, they do a phenomenal job generating grant revenue. I think last year, what did we settle in on, Jesse? 27 million the department obtained last year alone. The city, it wasn't, some of this overlaps, but we were able to pull down, and this was through Mayor Bill Brand's efforts. We got $15 million in state money for parkland property acquisition, $10 million from the federal government for breakwater repair, and another $1.4 million from Ted Lieu's office to repair Basin 3 boat slips. That was separate from the money that they pulled through Measure M, through Metro.
Yeah.
We bought a parcel of land at the corner of Inglewood Avenue and Grant Avenue. There's that triangular piece there that's next to the cemetery. Oddly enough, we didn't own the corner. There's a parcel on the corner of the intersection. We actually owned an old street easement that was immediately adjacent to the fence line that abuts the cemetery there. The cemetery owners came and asked to acquire our parcel so they could have the contiguous property and maybe build some stuff on it. We said, time out. We'd like to buy your area so we can eventually build out a more active transportation-based right-of-way corridor. Well, we were successful in negotiating that. We got a good number, and we went out and got a grant to actually pay for it. Roughly $1.5 million grant paid for it. So we bought city property using other people's money, and we preserved that space, and eventually we'll do something with it. So, no, we've done a fantastic job. I want to say, 27 million in kind of roadway construction, transportation project acquisition, and another arguably 35 through other just state advocacy efforts, which really become more of a policy thing. That's not always staff. It's a lot of work on the mayor and council's part, but team effort for sure. And so, probably our most successful couple of grant years in history.
Wonderful. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks for the question.
That was one of my questions. Can we have your email to contact you?
Sure, yeah.
For
It's
some
Mike.
comments?
Yeah, Mike, and then dot, my last name, spelled WITZANSKY,
Okay,
at redondo.org.
okay, excellent.
Yeah, the typical misspelling is I at the end, not Y, but it's
Okay.
Y. Yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
So, and any input, I'll deliver the budget about 3 weeks from now. Happy to take any and all feedback, happy to have sidebar conversations with any of you if you got ideas or suggestions. Always willing to chat about things. Jesse's going to give you a bit of a primer on capital programs. Feel free to give specific project suggestions to Andy and Jesse tonight. And if you got any more questions or thoughts for me, I'm here.
Okay, thank you, I will, and I do, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
thank you very much.
All right, well, have a great meeting. Thank you all again for your service, and look forward to what I hear from staff tomorrow.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Chair, Commissioners. So I'll give a brief presentation on the CIP program. This is kind of a high level, what we've accomplished this year, what we're currently working on, what's in design, and what we kind of plan for the upcoming fiscal year funding plan. So I know we have a few new commissioners this year. So this is kind of just a recap of the CIP. For tonight, why is the CIP important? How do we evaluate the criteria to determine what gets on the CIP? Some of the accomplishments this year, active projects, and next steps, and then recommendations for the CIP, both carryover and draft for next year. So why is the CIP important? CIPs are necessary for maintaining the quality of life of Redondo Beach residents, businesses, and visitors alike. They help maintain the health and safety of the city by ensuring the infrastructure, including the buildings, the streets, the underground infrastructure, in promoting health and safety as well. Good infrastructure helps maintain and increase property values. CIPs also assist in economic development by investing in the infrastructure that is needed to make the city a desired location. It is also assist in limiting the city's liability by addressing potential hazards, such as the uplifted sidewalks, just to name one. So this is the evaluation criteria as we look at CIPs that are currently on the list and what to add. Do they deal with health and safety? Is it a mandate from the state, from the federal government that we need to address? Do they implement a strategic plan goal that the council has adopted? Does it complete an existing project that's currently in progress that needs more funding to complete? Does it support economic development in the city? Will it result in future operating savings? And is there significant outside funding to complete the project? So this is some of the highlights for this current fiscal year, 23-24. We still have a few months left, but up to date, we have Grant Avenue Signal Street improvement enhancements for those who live in North Redondo or drive on Grant Avenue. As you
That's
see,
completed now, isn't it? You see?
it is substantially complete. We haven't officially accepted it as complete. There's still some outstanding small items that need to be completed, but essentially it's complete. So that was one of the highlights this year that added bulb outs to the intersections along that corridor with updated street signals. So that was also a big grant-funded project. We had some discretionary fund, but a big portion of this was grant-funded through Metro. We also have the Torrance Boulevard resurfacing. This one's also substantially complete. There's still some outstanding items, but all the resurfacing that you guys have hopefully driven on, it's a very smooth ride right now if you go through there. That was a big project. It took a while. We have a new signal now at Francisca, which I think is very much welcomed for everyone that drives that intersection. We have the citywide slurry seal program. This has been in our program over the last few years. It's very successful. It allows us on a more inexpensive way to add 5 to 10 years life to some of the streets without having to do a full reconstruction, which is much more expensive. So that next phase was completed. We just received bids for the next phase that will go into construction in the next couple of months. The sidewalk improvements, this is one of those liability. It's actually a very important program for us. We've cut down the amount of claims that we've had to pay out because of the program that we've implemented in walking the streets, GISing every single inflection throughout the city and having our crews or contractors come in, either grind them or do a removal and replace of those sidewalks, improving obviously the pedestrian safety as well. Civic Center landscape improvements, for those who walk in here, you'll see that corridor here in the front. We're working on that, so that'll be a whole new palette of native plants along with other plants and walk paths that lead to door 1 and door 2. Just a better experience, I think, for everyone who comes and visits City Hall. We have the Wilderness Park Community Center improvements. This is an ongoing project, but we completed the roof replacement and some of the bathroom partitions, much needed love and care that building needed, along with as you, City Manager Wazanski mentioned, all our buildings need some love. So that's also some funding that we received from CDBG that we use to do those improvements, and that's an ongoing project. The Police Department Pier substation renovation, that is ongoing, but we've done a substantial amount of work there at the substation down at the pier to make it a better environment for the police officers that are down there. There's a much more presence of officers down at the pier, which is much, I think, well received from the residents and the business owners down there. traffic calming. As you see Ryan coming to you all the time. We have a lot of, he's busy. He's working through a lot of our traffic calming enhancements throughout the city. So we've added a lot of traffic calming enhancements, continuous enhancements throughout the city. So that's an ongoing project as well. Playground rubberized resurfacing, we're working on Anderson Park. And this is kind of an ongoing project as well that as we can every year, we program a playground or two, depending on the size and depending on funding, to upgrade those rubberized resurfacing at the playgrounds. The Harbor Patrol dock replacement, Basin 2 pump station, these were two projects kind of bid out together. So we kind of count, they're two projects, but they were constructed as one. Really needed for the Harbor Patrol to really operate in a much safer environment down there. There's brand new docks there that they can safely access the boats. The pier decorative sculpture sales, if you guys walk down at the pier, you've seen those sales.
Right.
We repainted them. So hopefully, they pop a little more now, add some color back to those sales. And then Franklin Park improvements, this was a new project added this year. It's ongoing, but we've done some restriping down there at the basketball courts. We're adding some shade there. So these are just some of the projects that we've highlighted this year. There's other smaller projects that we've also done, but those are just to name a few. If you guys have any questions at any time, you can always ask it.
A quick one. I noticed there's a lot of activity at Dominguez Park, but I don't see anything on this list.
There we go. This next slide right here.
Never mind.
So this picture is actually the grading. They've demoed the location. They're doing grading right now. So it's under construction and hopefully will be wrapped up in the next several months. We're doing the landscape improvements first, and then they'll bring in the new playground equipment, get that installed, and we'll have an opening of that. It's much, I know a lot of the residents there have I don't know if you live around that area, but a lot of the parents are excited for the new playground to be active. And so we're excited about this project as well. So these are some of the current CIP projects that are either in procurement or construction. MBB resurfacing, that's our next big arterial. It's under contract. We have full construction hopefully starting in the next month or two. We had some long lead times on some of these traffic signals that we had to order before time. So we'll get this going in the next month or two in earnest and have a whole resurfaced area between Inglewood and Aviation. Anita, Redondo, and PCH, the westbound right turn lane, we just awarded this as well. We're in the contract execution. So hopefully we'll get this in construction in the next couple months and you'll have I don't know what the proper term is, but a better right turn lane where you're not queued up as left turn lane. There you go, left turning.
Thanks for clarifying. Okay.
Yes, there you go.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
The next project, the bicycle transportation implementation plan. This is part of the bicycle master plan. So there's corridors throughout the city where we're adding bike lanes to. There's the widening of Nob Hill that we're doing as well with some storm drain improvements that we have to do there. But this one's been years in the queue, so we're really excited to finally get this going. Add those bicycle lanes for the bicyclists to have a safer experience as they ride through the city. Pier improvement, the pier restroom improvements, those are ongoing. We're almost through all the restrooms, but there's still a couple more that need to be updated. So that's been a very successful kind of maintenance CIP that we've done. And Mike, City Manager Wazanski, mentioned the International Boardwalk pavers. This is a priority project for the council. So we are awarding this tomorrow, and hopefully we'll have this constructed in the fall and have a whole new pavers down at the boardwalk that the hopefully a better experience for the pedestrians and the businesses as well. Harbor dredging, if you guys have looked down there, you see that the huge machines down there. They're actually going to wrap up dredging in the next 3 weeks. So they're almost complete. So we'll get this closed out. And this was a big project, right? This was $3 million of dredging that's necessary. It's one of these projects that's not super exciting for everyone, but very necessary, right? Unless you're a boater, then you're excited about this, yes. Dominguez, I mentioned this one, Dominguez Park Play Equipment, Landscape Walkways, it's under construction. The next two, Yacht Club Way Pump Station, Portofino Way Pump Station, these are two sewer pump stations down at the harbor. Again, one of these projects where they're not super exciting, but super important. These two projects combined are $9 million in capital. So right now, they've taken a hiatus with Beach Life coming in. So they'll be back once Beach Life is over and closed down.
On that point, Jesse, could you clarify between those two pump stations and the one mentioned previously, Basin 2 pump station?
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Portofino Way Pump Station is right adjacent to Seaside Lagoon. It's in the street and in the parking lot there. So is that the location? Is that what you're asking about?
I saw it mentioned as a Basin 2 pump station, and now I'm seeing Yacht Club Way and Portofino Way. There aren't three, right?
Basin 2 was the pump station, the sewage boater dock, the sewage dock. That used to be inside.
The cleanup station at the Harbor Patrol Building.
I wasn't finding
Thank
the
you.
word.
I just want to thank you for clarifying. Yeah.
And lastly, like I mentioned, the Slurry Seal citywide project that is in procurement right now, and hopefully to get that going in the next couple of months. These are some projects that are currently in design. The Kingsdale Avenue resurfacing, this is the section between 182nd and Grant Avenue. So that's hopefully almost wrapped up in design and hopefully having that to council for adoption of plans and specifications in the next couple of months. Aviation Artesia northbound right turn lane. This one is, we had a favorable ruling in the courts. We're still working through some of those legal proceedings, but we'll be able to hopefully move forward on that right turn lane there that I think will help a lot with the traffic
Sort of
flow.
go into where the gas station is?
Correct.
Shell station.
Shell station?
Yes. Residential street rehab, this will be a major focus for us in the next year. We have two phases currently in design. So one will be presented in the summer, one in the fall, and hopefully have one of those, if not two, started in the next fiscal year. We're estimating $2.5 million for each phase. So this is going to be a big portion of what we accomplish hopefully in the next year. Curb ramp improvements, we have a design for the next set of curb ramps that we have to update on ongoing for mandates. This is one of those mandated requirements that we have. Seaside Lagoon, we have the consultant on that's working through. I think they're supposed to present some of the ideas to different committees in May. So that's in the works. The SC right-of-way west of PCH landscape improvements. I think we've received back our comments from SCE, so we're working on finalizing those plans and get those to council hopefully in the next couple months as well, so we can get that going in the next fiscal year for construction. Police Department shooting range. I don't know how many of you saw the last council meeting or two council meetings. I forget which one it was. They had a lengthy discussion about the shooting range. We have some money for design. There was support to move forward in trying to search for funding to move forward with the combined grant application with is it the Space Force or the Air Force? I forget which force it is.
Los Angeles Air Force Base, but it's the Space Force that's interested in working with us for a grant opportunity there. Yeah.
The next two are storm drainage improvements. These are regional Measure W projects. So Fulton Playfield Infiltration Project, Glenn Anderson Park Regional Stormwater Capture Project. These are both projects that we were successfully all 100% grant funded. Our civil engineer sits on the board, and she's very successful in getting this money for the city and much needed projects for stormwater capture. And then lastly, this is not an exhaustive list, but the pier parking structure repairs. There's some repairs that are needed, as you guys well know, down at the pier structure. So that's what we have working in design at this point. So the next steps, recommendations of staff CIP committee, right? We speak as public works staff along with our finance and our city manager on putting together our recommendations to the council for next year's funding plan. based off of revenues and what we can afford to do and priorities as well. So as City Manager mentioned, the proposed budget to City Council will be released by May 16th, which is mandated by the charter. The Planning Commission has to review to make sure the proposed CIP fits with the general plan. So that's something that they actually take up and just adopt. And then the fiscal year 24-25 CIP budget hearing will take place on the second Tuesday, which is June 11th. This is just a snapshot. I won't walk through it all, but here you'll see our estimated carryover funds for the year as of now. We're probably going to carry over about $66 million in carryover funds. And as you mentioned, as you see, a big portion of that, half of it almost, is from street projects, and a majority of that is from grant funds, mostly metro funds. And the fiscal year 24-25 budget recommendations, as I mentioned, they're in development. The areas of focus is to complete existing projects. We will be adding a few new projects, just we received some grant funds from Metro, so we have to get those scheduled. But we have a very robust capital program. We had 140 projects in this fiscal year's budget. So we're really trying to get through that and work through that. Residential street rehab will be a big priority. On the city facility infrastructure, fire stations 1 and 2, the civic center, the police department, continuous, just many renovations just to upkeep the facilities as we can. And then harbor improvements, continue to beautify high visible areas and work through all the deferred maintenance we have down there. So tonight, recommendation, receive and file the presentation and the status of the capital improvement program budget. And we're here for any questions or any comments you guys would like to make.
Any questions, comments? Thought it was a very thorough, informative presentation. Thank you for making that. Can we get a motion to receive and file?
I'll make a motion to receive and file the presentation on the status of the capital improvement program budget.
Is there a second?
Second?
I'll second.
Could you go back to the first page for me just for a second? I just wanted to take a
Do we need any public comment on that?
We would, yes, we can see if there is any public comment, but for the record, we do not have any e-comments at this time. And if there's any attendees on Zoom, they can raise their hand, but we do not have anyone raising their hand.
Okay, anyone in the public care to make a comment on the presentation? Okay, we've had a motion to receive and file. Do we have a roll call vote on that, I guess?
Oh, sorry. Commissioner Arata?
Aye.
Commissioner Bajaj?
Yes.
Commissioner Funbashi?
Aye.
Commissioner Mealy?
Aye.
Commissioner Sal?
Aye.
Chair Simpson?
Aye.
Very well done.
Okay.
Just by way of reminder, the budget will be presented to the public on May 16th. It'll be available on the website. Typically, the CIP will be a part of that as well. I'd encourage you to look for that if you're interested in giving some feedback at our May meeting.
It will come before us at the May meeting?
There'll be an opportunity to discuss it. We're not going to present the budget like the city manager would, but it'll be available online to read, or the May 21st council meeting, it will be discussed and presented in detail. So you could watch that video or attend the meeting prior to our May.
It won't come before us again for recommendations? No.
It will be a discussion item in May.
In May, okay. That's
Yeah,
good.
that's right.
Yeah, okay.
We don't intend to represent what the city manager presents on May 21st, but we'll certainly be listening to comments and thoughts and giving that input back. And you may, as a commission, want to make a recommendation, either a written recommendation or something that we can carry back to the council when they come to their hearing for CIP or the operation budget as well.
Okay, so I guess we're now on item J2, discussion and possible action regarding requested always stop installations at the intersections of Diamond Gertruda and Diamond Guadalupe.
Good evening, Public Works and Sustainability Commission. Ryan Liu, City Traffic Engineer. Just as here's an overview map of the request. So we received a request for 2 additional always stops at Diamond and Gertruda and Diamond and Guadalupe. Here is a map with Diamond Street. Diamond Street is a collector street, about 56 to 64 feet wide. And the 2 intersecting streets, Gertruda and Guadalupe, are both local streets, about 40 feet wide. As you can see here, Gertruda and Guadalupe are stop controlled at Diamond. There is an always stop at Francisca and Diamond, an always stop at Alberta and Diamond. And so that's the general conditions around the area, with Redondo Union High School on the south side of this area. The city has a adopted stop sign policy, which includes resident survey, 2/3 required, and a staff engineering analysis. So we're taking both of these intersections as one item. So here at the Gertruda intersection, we polled all the residents within 150 feet of the intersection. The location of the pin is located at the center of the intersection. This is consistent citywide, and this is based on the city's GIS map. So staff, we don't have the option to move that pin around at the intersection. So highlighted in blue are the parcels that are within 150 feet of this intersection. For Gertruda, we received 5 supportive responses and 1 opposed, which was a total support rate of 45%. We also received 8 supportive responses to making this intersection an always stop, but they came from outside of the official survey radius. So we presume that the survey was shared with other people along the street, but per the city's policy, those supportive responses are not included as the official tally per the policy. So therefore, this intersection did not meet the resident survey warrant for per the policy. At the Guadalupe intersection, same policy applies. We received 2 supportive responses and 1 opposed, which came out to a 14% support rate, and 1 supportive response from outside of the radius. So therefore, this intersection also did not meet the resident survey threshold. The other component of the city's always stop policy is an engineering analysis per the California Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. The MUTCD, California MUTCD, is the governing document for public streets, the public right-of-way. It's the reason why stop signs are red octagons and not yellow circles. It provides uniformity and rules for streets. There are 4 sections of the MUTCD that discuss multi-way stops. There's a lot of words on this slide, but basically the first warrant to consider an always stop is it an intersection that meets traffic signal warrants? These 2 intersections are very unlikely to meet traffic signal warrants. The next one is a crash analysis. So we and the police department ran an analysis of reported crashes and did not find that there were 0 reported and correctable crashes in the past 5 years that could be corrected with an always stop sign. So didn't we meet warrant B either? Warrant C is basically a volume threshold. 300 vehicles per hour for 8 hours in a day on the major street, and 200 units or bicycle, pedestrians, and vehicles in those same 8 hours on the minor street, with high levels of delay on that minor street. Is highly unlikely that either of these streets would meet those volume thresholds. We've recently taken 24-hour counts on Juanita and Lucia and found about 500 vehicles in the entire 24-hour period for those streets. So it's highly unlikely that we would get 200 units per hour for 8 hours in a day on these minor streets. So we do not expect warrant C to be met. And then warrant D offers a combination of warrants B and C. So what we're trying to say here is that none of these warrants are met for either of these 2 intersections, and almost every stop sign request that comes to us in the city and that has come before you usually does not meet any of these criteria. The MUTCD also offers alternative or option criteria for installing always stops. The first one is to control left turn conflicts. Generally, we found that the left turn volumes are low, and there is a 2-way left turn lane on Diamond Street. So we found that the number of left turn conflicts are not high here. Another warrant could be potential to install always stops could be adding additional crosswalks where there are a lot of pedestrian volumes. The the high school does generate a lot of pedestrian volumes, but crosswalks are already provided along Diamond closer to the Redondo Union student entrances. And so staff felt like we didn't have to add additional crosswalks when there are already crosswalks where the students enter the school. The next option criteria is a line of sight issue. If there are visibility challenges between the two approaches of an intersection, that could be a reason to install an all-way stop. We visited the area many times and did not find a line of sight issue, generally because with Diamond Street being so wide, there is usually, there's always a clear line of sight going up and down the street. The last option criteria is for an intersection of two through streets of similar design and operating characteristics where an all-way stop could improve traffic operational characteristics. This warrant is also not met because Gertruda and Guadalupe are not through streets. They terminate at Diamond, are not of similar design or volume. Historically, the city has relied on options C and D to approve stop signs. So a lot of our typical intersections in North Redondo between two through streets that are 28 feet wide of similar operating characteristic, those two streets feel equal in stature, that's a reason to install an all-way stop. But in this case, because Gertruda and Guadalupe are much smaller streets than Diamond, that is a reason to not install all-way stops there. So because we are not meeting any California METCD criteria or warrants for installing all multi-way stops, we are strongly recommending against installing all-way stops at either intersection. Now, typically, under the city's always stop policy, if we are not meeting either the resident survey or the engineering analysis, we would not bring this item forward. We would close it at an administrative level. But because we received a lot of survey responses from outside of the neighborhood and with conversations with the council member from District 2, we decided to still bring this to the commission for discussion. Throughout this process, we also heard about speeding and safety concerns along Diamond Street, particularly during the school commute hours. Staff feel like that a further holistic corridor level study would be needed to address those issues, not trying to apply a stop sign policy at particular intersections. So happy to answer any questions.
So quick question, Ryan. I know this particular issue, there was a parking spot concern, that it would eliminate, 7 parking spots?
Yes, that's something that we also put in our report, is that if we are to install always stops at either of these intersections, that would necessitate the 20 feet that's required prior to any crosswalk. We would have to mark red curbs there. So the presence of the crosswalk, the limit line for the cars, the 20 feet of additional red curb, we gave an estimate. Now, this is not the exact number, but we would estimate at least 7 of those marked parking spots along Diamond or those side streets would need to be removed if there were always stops installed there.
And there would need to be curb ramps, right, on the Redondo side of the school side of the street?
Possibly both sides. We may need to install 2 ramps on each corner. That's the new standard now. But yes, we would have to install curb ramps, which we do not have an identified funding source at this time.
You said that the driving this request with concerns about speeding, right?
Yes, that's
And you
correct.
said a holistic approach would be more appropriate. What would a holistic approach entail? What do you mean by that?
I believe that that approach would be to look at Diamond Street between PCH and Prospect as a whole, look at the width of the roadway, see what's the best utilization of that space. And if there are any ways to, perhaps narrow the lanes, revisit the purpose of the two-way left turn lane, just think about, other ways on a corridor level to control speeds and safety as the residents are asking about.
Okay. Other questions, concerns, comments? I suspect we've got some people here who would like to comment on this.
I have one card for Janine Lux.
Can you come up to the microphone, please?
I don't know, I was expecting a lot more people to want those stop signs, and I'm against it, like 100% against it. So from everything you said, I don't know, I feel very relieved. And I agree with you that it's more of a holistic overall, like, why let some people who don't really know the big picture come along and say, let's put stop signs here and here? It should be someone who knows the whole area, knows better ways to slow traffic. I think that four-way stop signs add more confusion and more chaos, and with so many bikes and pedestrians and skateboards, you pull up. I live on that corner, so I pull up to it all the time. I see traffic. I know I've got to defer to everybody else. It's very clear. You put stop signs there. I know legally I have the right of way because I pulled up first, but here comes some bikes and you're not going to go, right? You're going to wait and use your common sense. So now who goes? Now it's just confusing. Now it's whose turn is it? And I think there's even potential to have more accidents because of that confusion. But anyway, I feel like so satisfied with what you came up with. So thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Any other comments?
We don't have any other cards, so
Somebody with their hand up in the back, please?
Thank you. I live on Diamond Street.
please state your name as well.
Angela, my name is Angela Ho, and I hear all of the facts, the reason behind not to. I'm here to say that the problem with Diamond Street speeding safety is real. So if we don't do the stop signs, which I understand stop sign is not there to control speed or anything like that, but for all of the streets that border Redondo Union High School on the Vincent Street, which is a much quieter street, they all have always stop signs. That's like, I forget, 7 out of 7. Every one of those little streets have always stop signs. Whereas on Diamond, between Del Amo and PCH, only 3 out of 6, okay? But Diamond is carrying about 85, 90% of the school traffic. So there's a lot of risk there. And everyone's being super cautious to avoid accident. That's why you don't see any hard numbers. But it doesn't mean that people don't live in fear. Drivers, pedestrians, we're just trying to cross the street safely. So holistic approach, expert opinion, people that are smarter than us, great. But I think we need to have a timeline because the traffic on Diamond has sharply declined, or I should say the volume of traffic has sharply increased in the last year or so. Not quite sure what is going on, but it's gotten so bad that, and I would like to see the report of when you did the traffic study, date, time, weeks, whatever, in April, I think is when you said. So it would be nice to see, why is it that you are not seeing, or the study didn't echo what the residents that live around the area feel day in and day out. So, because it's not a 24-hour problem, but it's a real problem, during the school, anytime the school has events, which school days are part of it. So I just think it would be nice to have a plan in place that's real, right? I think you mentioned that maybe Diamond's up for repavement. Maybe we can look at the bike lane, how to make it wider, make it safer for the bikers, separating the bikers from the cars, because Barrow Street is an example. I think they have a much well-defined bike lane, whereas Diamond has most of the bicycle traffic, yet it doesn't have a well-defined bike lane. You can see lanes on the road, but it's kind of sharing that same space with all the the cars parked on the road. So any kind of improvement that can happen would be much greatly appreciated, and hopefully in a timely manner, because Diamond needed help like last year. With the gun incident that happened toward the end of last year, it's gotten so much worse because they closed the south entrance access to the campus. So everybody is going through, two access points. So, any kind of help, people would greatly appreciate it. Our livelihood is on the line here. Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any other comments? Do we have any online or Zoom or any of that good stuff comments?
I don't have any attendees that with their hand raised at this time on Zoom. And we did have one e-comment. that was in support.
Support of the stops, always stops, okay. Questions, comments? Anybody want to make a motion?
I was going to make a motion to, just based on that it doesn't meet the thresholds to not install the stop signs at this time, but for you to work on your study, complete the study, and then bring it back to us and let us know when, how, give us a timeline of when you think that could happen.
So I would like to add that this type of study, we will need the council to direct some funds so that we can hire a consultant to, take traffic counts, survey the neighborhood, maybe do a survey of the street and start laying out options. So it's a bit of a larger effort that we probably can't handle within our normal workload.
Okay.
So you cannot handle within the,
Yeah, we would need some specific funding for that. So either additional money into the traffic calming fund or some other type of project. An excellent suggestion, by the way, for the budget coming up, if you wanted to include that in a recommendation.
I will.
And I would actually support that motion to not install the four-way, actually it's a three-way stop, an all-way stop at this time. But that, and also note, obviously, as was mentioned in testimony just a moment ago, stop signs are not recognized as a form of traffic calming. So we don't meet those thresholds. But what was also mentioned, and I think there always is some interaction with our school district. The bulk of that traffic is a result of our wonderful Redondo Union High School. And so where we've interacted with them on other school sites, I don't know, part of me was even thinking like maybe they should be a little, I know obviously the roads belong to us and the school is them, but they certainly need to be participating in input because, they could probably help alleviate some of the traffic on Diamond by, opening up stuff on Vincent. I don't know what the entrance and exit looks like on the high school these days. I literally would drop my kids off on Vincent on the old circle because it was always a lot less traffic. And then they were driving themselves, which was probably contributing to some of the problems as well. But so we can take the motion and maybe.
I'm a little unclear as to what the motion is. It got kind of jumbled, so.
The motion is to not support the installation of the three-way
accept
stop
the staff
sign
recommendation.
at this time to support the staff because it doesn't meet the thresholds. And that they do their study or that we, put some money in place into the budget, into the traffic calming, as mentioned, so that we can get the study properly done. And I was going to add, I don't know if we need to add this into the motion, perhaps increase enforcement, so that there is, that the increase enforcement.
Yes.
My issue is they said that has to be council directed. So we as a body cannot make a motion that they go and conduct a study or put anything in the budget as Ryan said, we can make a recommendation in the.
We're making a motion to make a recommendation. We can do that.
We can make a motion to accept the staff's recommendation to not install the always stops,
But to
right?
amend it also, that they're going to bring it back to us, or we're going to have it brought back.
I think to be clear, a motion could be that we accept staff's recommendation to not install the four-way stops, but to seek potential funding for a more holistic approach from mayor and council with the input from the school district would be my motion. Would be my friendly amendment.
Yeah, I like it.
Have we got that? So we know what we're voting on?
So we made a motion to support staff's recommendation for the always stop sign, right?
To not install.
To not install, and to
make a recommendation to council, right?
We could prepare what's called a budget response report, a BRR, for the council that might outline a cost of a study and see if the council is interested in pursuing that as part of their budget motion.
we can make that recommendation. We can direct staff to do that? Our motion can?
I'm not sure if you can officially authorize a BRR to be done, but now that I know it, I can mention it to the council and the city manager, and we can get that included, I'm sure.
Okay,
We can make a recommendation, though, right?
okay,
I
so
want to
was
direct
there a
you,
second?
we're recommending.
But I would also include involvement from the school district, because if we're going to pursue funds for this one Diamond Street, there obviously are, 11, 12 other schools that, probably I'd like to put council on notice that we should probably have a holistic approach around all the schools ongoing, because this is not the only issue that has come before this board or our commission before. We've dealt with some of the other schools and traffic issues and speeding and different things. So, but the main thing is to suggest. Obviously, we can't direct them to. All we can direct, obviously,
We can
we can recommend that the part
recommending.
after we make the motion to accept staff's
Correct.
their recommendation tonight. Yeah.
We clear on what the motion is? Let's have a roll call vote, please.
So for the record, we have Commissioner Arata as first, and then Commissioner Funabashi was the second on the motion?
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Arata.
Aye.
Commissioner Bajaj.
Aye.
Commissioner Funabashi.
Aye.
Commissioner Bealy.
Aye.
Commissioner Sao.
Aye.
Chair Simpson.
Aye.
All right.
Okay, so we are now on item J3, discussion and possible action regarding the installation of a speed cushion along the 700 block of North Juanita Avenue.
So this next item before you is a speed cushion request by the residents of the 700 block of Juanita between Barrow and Agate. Lauren, can I have my presentation?
Oh, I'm sorry.
So this is an overview of the block. It's approximately 650 feet in length between Barrow and Agate. There are stop controls along Juanita at Agate. It's not an always stop, it's a two-way stop, but Juanita is the stop controlled street there, and an always stop at Barrow and Juanita. So it's approximately 650 feet where there are no speed controls or other ways to slow down drivers. We would like to note that on the block to the south on North Irina, there is an existing speed cushion that we recently replaced with a newer model that looks the same as the ones that were approved on Lucia that were also recently installed. So, if approved, the speed cushion would look very similar to the one on Irina, and the two blocks are very similar in characteristics. So we received a request for this in January 2024 by one of the residents. Staff took a look at the block and, determined if there were any alignment grading or classification perspectives that could preclude the installation of a speed cushion. We found that there were none, and so we provided the resident with the petition forms. Per council policy, requires 2/3 of the subject block to sign a petition. We found 59 total residences with frontage on Juanita, and we received we require 40 of those residents to sign the form. We received approval from 48 of the 59, about 81%, which is above the 2/3 threshold. We verified about 38 of the signatures. We're not required to verify every single signature, but we verified 38 of them. So because it passed the resident survey threshold, we moved forward with the engineering study. The city's policy requires a speed and volume analysis to be performed. Speed cushions can only be installed on streets that are 32 miles per hour or above in the 85th percentile speed and carry less than 3,000 vehicles per day on average. There are other criteria such as grade, street classification, and those criteria were met. This slide shows the results of that speed study. You'll note that the 32 mile per hour speed threshold was not strictly met in both directions. It was met in the northwest direction, in the direction that kind of arcs towards PCH, towards Agate and away from Barrow. That speed was 32 miles per hour. It's a bit of a downhill slope. In the other direction, which is a bit in an uphill slope, the 85th percentile speed was 30 miles per hour. So therefore, the two-way speed was 31 miles per hour. staff, when taking a look at the street, we deemed the threshold met because of the downhill direction. It doesn't make sense to only install speed humps in one half of the street. Drivers could just swerve around. And so given that it met it in the downhill direction and the overall speed was only 1 mile per hour less than the actual city threshold, we deemed this threshold met. And also in light of the overwhelming resident support for these speed cushions. So based on the resident survey and staff's engineering analysis, we recommend the installation of one set of speed cushions on the mid-block of the 700 block of North Juanita Avenue. It would make the block look very similar to Irena to the south. These speed cushions, as per typical, will be the prefabricated rubber speed cushions that we install. They don't require repaving of the streets. We would, install the signage and striping similar to the ones on Lucia. We don't have to remove any street parking. They will be designed to allow for emergency vehicle bypass with the two little wheel paths in the middle, but any conventional vehicle would have to traverse at least one set of tires, one side of their car on the speed cushions. And so we're proposing the speed cushions to be right around the 714, 715, 716 section of the block shown in this picture here. This map also shows the residents who supported who provided signatures shown in the green dot. You'll note that the 4 residents at 714 to 716 did not sign the petition. According to the petitioner, now this is not staff's verification, but according to the petitioner, the front unit at 716 is in the process of moving out and therefore declined to sign the petition. But here is the map, here's the support. And so we're happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Looks as though we might possibly have some public comment.
I do not have any cards for this item.
Okay, does
but feel
anyone
free.
here in the audience care to comment on the proposal for the installation of the speed cushions?
Sure, come forward and state your name, please.
Hi, Kurt DeMoss, 723 North Juanita. First of all, thank you very much for your service. I've been a resident on this street in our unit for over 30 years. And we have seen, high rates of speed, close encounters. I don't know that anyone has been run over, but plenty of instances of close calls over those many years. So I very much welcome the addition of the speed cushion. I think with Irena, with that speed cushion going on, it's moved traffic over. People that are coming down PCH, cutting through Irena, avoiding the speed cushion, they're coming over to North Juanita and then, continuing on all the way over to Prospect. So I think it's a very appropriate and necessary addition, and would certainly welcome your support to do that. And thank you for the staff. Very good analysis. I was glad to see that. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comment? Please come up, state your name.
Hi, my name is Peggy Tran, and my husband and I, we live on 7117 North Juanita. And so just one house from the proposed speed cushion, and we are absolutely for it. We have seen cars just zooming by, and, we have kids and we have dogs, cats. I believe that the person who submitted this whole study from our neighborhood, she said that a cat got hit by a car. So we have seen that, and this is needed even last year. So I hope it will happen soon for us to be safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Don't see any here, any online and emails and all that good stuff.
We have no e-comments for this item, and we do have attendees, but no one's raising their hand at this time, so looks like they don't want to speak.
Okay, do we have any sort of a motion that anyone would care to make, or any further discussion before a motion is made?
without any comments, I'll make a motion to go with the staff's recommendation, seeing that the engineering study and the necessary number of signatures was received on the petition.
And it be installed.
And it be installed, yes.
Okay, is there a second?
I will second that motion.
May we have a roll call vote?
Sure. Commissioner Arata?
Aye.
Commissioner Bajaj?
Aye.
Commissioner Funabashi?
Aye.
Commissioner Bealy?
Aye.
Commissioner Sao?
Aye.
Chair Simpson?
Aye. How long will it take before they get installed and in place and all that, a month or so?
We anticipate going to city council in May with this item, and then the process to install will kind of depend on availability and staff.
And to make it
Time.
clear, city council could decline to follow our
They
recommendation.
could.
I have a quick general question. We see a bit of these requests, and I think, we expect to see more of these as it becomes a more popular form of traffic calming measure. How much does it cost to install a speed cushion?
So the most recent quote we got was about, between 10 to 15, about $10,000 for 1 to 2 sets of speed cushion. And then we're approximating maybe 3,000 to 5,000 in staff labor to do that. So I think as you witnessed on your block when we were installing ones on Lucia, it took about six crews to 2 sets of crews to install this 2 speed cushions. So, we had received the speed cushions from the manufacturer about, 3 weeks after we ordered them, but it took about 2 to 3 weeks just to find enough staff to mobilize and install both sets. And you can see each set took 1 day to install.
What budget line item does it come? Does it come out of like a discretionary street improvement fund?
Traffic calming.
We have a traffic calming.
Just traffic calming.
So the one that was discussed in the previous item, that the purpose of those funds is to respond to, specific projects that the council has approved, but also general requests from the residents.
Yeah, historically, the council has either added money at the annual budget cycle to the traffic calming fund for undescribed projects, but generally traffic calming projects. And then there are other times where they approve and will add money, appropriate money at the time of the approval to the traffic calming fund for this kind of work.
Thank you.
Okay, motion made, passed. I guess we're on J4, which is discussion and possible action for the scheduling of a Public Works and Sustainability Commission meeting in the month of May.
Correct. So the fourth Monday of May is Memorial Day. We don't plan to be here as a staff, and
don't plan to be
I
here.
don't imagine you'll be here either.
We agree on that for sure.
So our recommendation is that we cancel that meeting. It would be considered the regular meeting date. However, we have checked with the city clerk's office, and there are 3 other available dates that week, the 28th, 29th, and 30th. And so
That would be a special meeting?
it would be a special meeting.
Places
At the time we wrote the staff report, we hadn't been able to confirm that the videographer could come, which is an essential part to be able to show this on Zoom. Today, we were able to confirm that they could make any of those 3 nights. And so rather than just cancel the meeting, we're also recommending that you select a date for a special meeting, and we'll adjourn to that date.
Okay, does anyone, a little discussion, do we care what day might work for people? I mean, is the Monday wouldn't, do we just don't want to push it up a day and do it on Tuesday, which would be the 28th? Or do we want to do it on the 29th, or is there any?
29th and 30th would be better for me. Just my personal.
We could do that exercise. I think we should. I cannot do Thursday, the 30th.
Okay.
So
The
that,
options are the 28th, 29th, 30th?
So maybe we could just tally the 28th.
Tally, yeah.
Show of hands, who would be available on the 28th? 1, 2.
What day is the
what day
28th?
That's the
is that?
Tuesday,
Tuesday.
that's the Tuesday night.
Oh,
after, the day after Memorial Day.
So it looks like we have
Well, how's the 29th?
5. How about the 29th?
what's the day after, what day is the Wednesday? And is the other commission that we're meeting, are they wide open?
This is a 5th week, so there are no scheduled meetings in the chamber that week. And
What
so
works best for the staff?
we will yield to your preferences here. So the 28th is a Tuesday. We had 5 available. The 29th is a Wednesday. How many?
You're
do
not
we have?
available, Commissioner Saul, right?
On the 28th, no.
No.
You're
So the
not
twen-
available on the 28th.
Are we all available on the 29th?
29th, I'm available.
Yeah,
I'm good.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And how about the 30th?
Thursday? Oh, sure.
Sure.
I'm available.
3, okay.
Okay.
And the only point I wanted to make and or ask is, would we have a book of business, as it were, things to discuss? And, I mean, obviously, there's always something to, just want to make sure that,
The subcommittee report may be before us on the,
on this particular meeting,
That is one item we'd like to discuss. We've had an invitation, a self-invited representative from West Basin who wants to come and speak to us about new laws regarding watering of what are considered ornamental lawns. And we also would like to collect your input on any budget matters that you might be interested in talking about that night. In addition to whatever may come up in
okay, so
the traffic.
were we saying that the 29th works for everybody? Is that what I saw?
I saw 6 hands for the 29th.
And we don't know about Commissioner Fisi, but she's not here, so.
Which one of us isn't not going to be available? Oh, no, it's 6 of us, forget it. Yeah, we're good.
28th does not work for you? No. Oh, so let's,
it's pretty
straightforward. I would say let's do
6 out of 6
29th.
on the 29th.
So
We need a motion to cancel. the
cancel
regular
and
scheduled meeting
reschedule, yeah,
and
thank you.
schedule a special meeting for the 29th.
That's correct.
Should we just in case have a second date in case it doesn't work for one of the other commissions? Is there another date that we're all available? Is that necessary?
And can we make this motion all in one?
Yes?
I'll make a motion that the Public Works and Sustainability Commission cancel the regular meeting of May 27th and meet as a special meeting date on Wednesday, May 29th.
Is there a second?
I'll second that. Okay, go ahead.
Well, we have a roll call.
Sure. So just for the record, we have Commissioner Funabashi with the motion and Commissioner Sal with the second.
Right.
Are there any public comments?
There's no one on Zoom, no e-comment. Well, no one on Zoom with their hand raised, and no e-comments.
And you'll remember to send us all a reminder in plenty of time so we
Yes.
show up the right night, right?
Yes, I will send out a reminder as well.
So we
So
need,
roll call vote.
yeah, please, why not?
Commissioner Arata?
Oh, let's do a voice vote. We don't need to.
Aye.
Okay, we want to do a voice vote?
Whatever.
Sure. Okay, Commissioner Arata?
Aye.
Commissioner Bajaj?
Yes.
Commissioner Funabashi?
Aye.
Commissioner Beely?
Aye.
Commissioner Sal?
Aye.
Chair Simpson?
Aye. Okay, well, that does all the stuff that was under discussion prior to action. It's now time for referrals to staff. Do we have any?
I do, but I'm going to send an email.
Do you know when the Dominguez Park will be open, the new play structure, everything?
If I remember right, the schedule had, I believe it was end of September. I think It'll be done. May have been the beginning of September, but it's early fall, late summer, early fall.
And then I guess there's one more question about the pavers on the International Boardwalk. When was that project scheduled to begin and how long will it be? And what will the public access to that area look like during construction?
We plan to we are asking council to award it tomorrow night. So assuming they award it, we plan to start in September after Labor Day.
Perfect. Okay.
And we have asked the contractor to maintain access to all the businesses all day.
Perfect.
So
we've asked them to prepare, when we're talking about traffic control, probably do half of it at a time. So one side first and then the other side after, while maintaining some access to the businesses.
Got it.
And I believe they're going to stage on the northern end of the boardwalk.
And do you know what the timeline is for construction? Is it a month, 2 months?
remember, Lauren? I don't remember. 60 days is in my head, but I'm not sure. I think it's a couple of months. Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, no, that's great. Thank you.
I would just ask clarification from staff on those two pump stations, Yacht Club Way and Portofino. I did notice that both streets look clean, but clarify that those projects are not necessarily completed.
Oh no, we're not completed.
That's that, and it's, I could see where they covered it over, and I know we got a big thing coming up 2 weekends from now and all that.
Yeah, specific to the contract was a no work period between the move-in date, which was April 16th for the Beach Life Festival.
Sure.
And the departure date, which is, I think, 8 days after the festival's over. So they're just off-site, not working. We had to drive them pretty hard to get them ready to cover it up like they did. They
Right.
were way behind in schedule. So they're recovering from that. And we were supposed to do Yacht Club Way at the same time, two kind of commensurate projects, but we couldn't let them. They weren't performing well enough for us to let them expand their work zone.
So even that does need to be worked. There's more work to do even on.
We've done nothing underground, very little underground with Yacht Club Way. It's all been above ground, but we do need to install another manhole, maybe two over there. So there is some underground work there to do as well. Cal Water has a utility that we didn't know about that's in the way. We have to move that.
Is there a rough idea as far as once the work recommences that how long it will go?
The original contract allowed them a full year to get both projects done. So it will be late this calendar year or perhaps into next before they're all buttoned up and out of here.
Okay. All right. That was all I had. Thank you.
For the citywide slurry project, when are we getting to D5?
Let's see. That's a great question for Lauren. Lauren?
We are, for slurry,
Most of the streets in D5 are in need of grind and overlay. Yeah, so slurry is not really the right answer up there yet.
Okay.
We need to do the grind and overlay first and then come back 7 to 10 years later with the slurry program up there. So D5 is getting a lot of love in the next couple of years. We have 2 projects in design right now. The first of the 2 focuses on D5 streets. And then
Is that just for Manhattan Beach or is there more involved?
No, the residential streets.
Okay.
Yeah, essentially streets that are north of Robinson. Is that the furthest south?
right, about Robinson. It's going to be Aviation to Vale. There's a multitude of streets in that, and Manhattan Beach Boulevard to the north. So that,
Yeah.
kind of your.
Not every single block, but the ones that were deemed necessary. And then we also, council just approved the next 3-year work plan. We're finishing up the 2023-year work plan now. When we start the next 3-year work plan, is it the first year that focuses?
The third.
Third year, sorry.
Well, yeah, first and the third, I think.
First and third year have streets in the TRW tract and the northeastern part of D5.
Okay. And
Anything else?
Because it's just a little different, but I found it.
there was something on your, on the gentleman's, what's that, the
CIP?
CIP, thank you. With additional housing units, how are those going to affect the community, for the condition of quality of life kind of stuff? Is there any thought gone into that?
Which
for
additional housing units are you referring to?
The low income,
The pallet shelter or just the general
the
housing?
general housing,
Yeah.
or is that still?
There's, in my view, there's a disconnect between the state's mandate and the region's, the SCAG's mandate for us to have however many new homes in Redondo Beach without much consideration being given to infrastructure, sewer lines, streets, parking, curb accessibility, all those kinds of things. So we're having to react to that by creative ways, but it's not, in my view, being organized together the way you would hope it would be in a planned community.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Commissioner Saul, any referral?
No, we're good.
I have one. Andrews Park, there's a water fountain by the playground, which in the last day or so doesn't seem to be working. The nozzle somehow was plugged up. So I don't know if that's something that Public Works could take a look at and fix, because when I go down there with my grandson, he likes to get a drink of water. when I walk my dog through there, I like to get a drink of water, and the last 2 days I've been unable to do it.
Thank you for sharing that. We will be happy to pass that along. And thank you for the opportunity to remind all of you about Access Redondo.
Redondo is a
Wonderful
Yes,
mobile
yeah,
app we have.
I would have done it on that, except I knew I was going to be here tonight, so. But why write and type when you can do it verbally? Is there any other things?
I would
that
like to make
refer
one
us?
announcement. If you're all finished, go ahead.
I just want to say that my wife loves Access Redondo. She says the quality of reply, the workmanship, it happens right away. She's like amazed on how efficient you guys are with the with that app.
Yeah, thank you. I shared with a resident today who wrote me about something about, I just do that because stuff gets lost in my inbox. I try and push it off, but it's got to go to me through chain of command. It takes a long time. The computer does that quickly and automatically, and the guys know how to respond to that right away. So it really is a superior system. So that's one reason to answer your question. Why type when you can just talk to me? Well, it'll happen faster if you type it in. I'm pretty sure of that.
Okay.
Little AI, yeah, throw a little AI in there.
Yeah, exactly.
One other.
My announcement, if you may allow me, is that you've all recognized, and thank you for that, that I've been appointed to be the director. And in the wake of that, I've appointed Lauren to be our acting city engineer.
Awesome.
So she will take on that role until we finish a formal recruitment, which will probably start after the budget sometime in July. So just a heads up on that. Thank you.
Congratulations, Andy. Congratulations.
Here.
So I guess we probably need a motion to adjourn, or we could just leave the meeting in order and walk out. But anyone care to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll
For
second.
a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Oh, this should be good.
Meeting adjourned.
I love that gavel.
I love that gavel.